Good morning. So we got a good one this weekend. Us Americans love money. And Jesus gives us a little bit of a business model to work from this Sunday. He seems to like these as he's using them a few other times in his teaching. So just a little recap, set the stage. 3 investors, one with 5 talents, one with 3, and one with 1. Now, this is a considerable amount of money. I can remember, probably as a high school student, listening to things like this, and a lot of the times the priest didn't explain exactly what was going on, so the whole homily, I'd be like, oh, what's a talent? Right? It doesn't really have a whole lot of meaning for us, because that was their way of measuring money. But in modern terms, a talent is $1 million. So we've upped the stakes a little bit. First guy's given $5 million. Second, $3 million. And finally, the one who makes nothing is given $1 million. 2 are praised and rewarded. There is no in between. The third is condemned. Now, if we focus on that for a second, mind you, he did not commit any transgression. He just didn't do anything. He didn't steal the money. He simply did nothing. Furthermore, the master does not just take the money back, right? So you didn't use it, so give it back and be on your way. In a rage, not only is the money taken from him, but he is also condemned to outside of the kingdom where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth. So maybe we sit back and say, yeah, he got fired. Well, there's a lot of implications here, everyone, that are eternally important to us. First, again, we as Americans, rich or poor, understand money. This country's valuation is $250 trillion. We're the greatest empire that has ever been. And we take our finance and financial assets extremely seriously. For a moment, I want you just to think back to the crash of 2008. That financial crisis cost us $12 trillion, an unfathomable amount of money. For some people, it cost them their entire livelihood. I'm sure you remember that people were committing suicide across the United States. They had lost everything. It set others back for years. Maybe you're sitting here right now still set back from it. Many might not be able to retire at all. Just thinking about the irresponsibility of those who caused it still can be a source of anger for many. So why? Because they were entrusted with something very important, and they misused it. And in this misuse, they caused severe damage. Now, we're not talking about worldly currency, obviously, but there's a heavenly currency that consists in faith and the reproduction of it, the spreading of it. It's the bearing of fruit. Fruit bears itself over and over again, and faith leads to love. Real love. Sacrificial love. Which anytime you use that from the pulpit, it always sounds so unbelievably nice, right? We all love to hear about it, but practicing it is an entirely different story. I can tell you this, the process of increasing our faith and subsequently real sacrificial love in our life does not come naturally to us. It's something that we need to work on day in and day out, monitoring it closely over the course of our life. What's natural to us is self-love, self-trust, self-preservation, my way, what I want to do so I can have what I desire. That's who we are in our fallen state. Now, just for a moment, let's pause there and consider the investor again, because this is where it gets really interesting. You take your life savings to a local investor. You walk through the door. As you walk in, he states he's an investor as he shakes your hand. He has a license and a degree on the wall that indicates he has the power and knowledge to do this. Talks a good talk about investments. And so after that meeting, you turn over your life savings, what you worked your life for. And you continue to make contributions to that, as we all do over the course of your life. The day of your retirement comes. You show up to collect on your investment, only to find out that all of the money that you gave to him made nothing. It's still there. But it is the exact same amount after all these years that you gave him in the beginning. How would you feel? Is the man actually a real investor? Well, by name and title maybe, but in action, he was nothing more than a terrible fraud. You see, this parable teaches us how we're in that exact same situation with Jesus. At our baptism, we are given an investment, one that is worth, in God's eyes for sure, but it should be in ours, millions of dollars. Which I think what he's trying to say is, when, at least for me, when I hear millions, like that's so unapproachable, right? Most people will never have that kind of money. Which means that our salvation was so unbelievably unattainable for us that when God freely turns this over to us, it is a massive investment personally in our own hearts and lives, and subsequently in that personal investment, the lives of everyone else that we are supposed to touch. It's doubled down on in our confirmation. And the dividends of this investment is sacrificial love, meaning this: I do not live my life for myself, but I live it willing the good of the other. Now, a lot of this is built into our vocations, right? If I live my priesthood the way I'm supposed to be living it, I am constantly laying down my life for the salvation of other souls, whether it be teaching, preaching, nursing home, hospital, other charitable works, the running of the parish, all of the stress that comes with the multiple jobs that we have. But then, of course, you understand that same thing in your marriages. Very easy to say, I do. The investment has been made. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years into it, it becomes real sacrificial love, where for no other reason but love, you are willing the good of that other person. We understand it even more deeply in our children. And how difficult even raising them can be, providing for them, but even more so, investing in their faith life. Bringing them up painstakingly in the faith to Mass, educating them in our home, so forth and so on. And it's clear from this parable that some of us are given more than others. But everyone receives a considerable amount. And in the Lord's words in another area, to whom much is given, much is expected. And over the course of our lives, we are called to grow this investment of faith. Real acts of love, real devotion. Expanding on God's original gift to us, so that we don't just present Him what He gave to us, as if it had been completely untouched and buried in the soil of our souls out of fear. But we become like God, who invested in us and therefore are compatible with heaven and are worthy of being entrusted with real life for all eternity. So this all sounds wonderful, but I ask you, in 2023, how many Catholics actually live this? The truth of the matter is, the majority of Christians are the fake investors. We got the title of Christian on our minds and on our lips, telling the world that that's who we are. Jesus has given us the capital, but we do nothing with it. Worse yet, we attribute it all to ourselves. What people don't understand is when we're baptized and confirmed, you receive anointings that cause you to be very, very, very successful and good at things in your life. They're not just natural. I want you to think for a second. Can you name the fruits of the Holy Spirit or his gifts? Even one of them. Go home and look it up and then identify in your heart which one you are. It's really quite amazing. And what we do then is we use those gifts to become successful and prosperous. And some of them are very natural, like the gift of administration. But then we attribute it to ourselves. I did this. It reminds me so many times of the 2-year-old, right? I do it! Me! We kind of laugh and say, well, there you go. But we act that way a lot of the times in our life with God. And we should be coming back and saying thank you. That's what we do every Mass, the great thanksgiving of the Eucharist. That's what it means. For all of this life and faith and anointing in your spirit that you've given me, how can I serve you? It's the old JFK line. Ask not what your church can do for you, but what you can do for your church. And think of the great saints. You want to see the 5 million? St. Francis Xavier baptized over 1 million people in India. One of the founder of the Jesuit order. And we're like, well, yeah, he's a saint, he was a priest. He didn't need to do any of that. St. Ignatius found him at a drunken poker party at Paris's university. Made him a bet that he couldn't say no to, lost the bet, ended up going on a retreat, had a conversion, turned all of his life over to Christ, was baptized, was confirmed, was ordained, took his capital, and baptized 1 million people. That was all free choice. Sister Teresa of Calcutta, otherwise known as Mother Teresa, working with the poorest of the poor, eating garbage and sleeping on a dirt floor. Worse yet, after she died, we discovered she had no spiritual consolation, right? We always think of the saints when they come to prayer. It must be so unbelievably deep. She experienced nothing but dryness and unbelief in her heart for 30 years. Meaning, she did it for no other reason than willing the good of the downtrodden bum in the gutter for love of Christ and love of that person. It was not easy. It was hell. But that was real love. St. Gianna Molla, probably the best one for our days, 1950s. A doctor, OBGYN, was pregnant with a baby that she knew that would kill her. She gave birth to the child and it killed her. That child is still alive, giving beautiful talks in a diocese a few years back. Nowadays, it's in a huge debate over whether life actually begins in the womb or not. This woman who was a doctor laid down her life for her child. That is sacrificial love. That's the investment. Nowadays, a person is thought to be great who isn't a terrible sinner. And the lukewarm and mediocre are considered to be the virtuous. Half of what we do in Catholicism is trying to get people not to do things. We don't even talk about everything that they're supposed to be doing. It's all sins of transgression versus the multitude of sins of omission. What we should have done, what we didn't do, what we are not doing right now. And so, my dear friends, what have you done with God's investment in you? We're all going to have to give an accounting. I'll tell you this much, as a priest, that troubles me. Because I can always be doing more. Do not forget this parable because it's real. Every one of us comes into that judgment as one of these investors. Consider the destiny of the man who was lazy, mediocre, complacent, and lukewarm. Hear it again. Now then, take the talent from him and give it to the one with 10. For to everyone who has, more will be given, and he will grow rich. But from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away. And throw this useless servant into the darkness outside, where there will be wailing and grinding of teeth.